Why most companies do not need complex CRM implementations. No one wakes up one day and thinks, what I really want to do next is another CRM project. It just doesn't happen for obvious reasons. The notion is that every single CRM project is long and complex and very expensive. And they certainly can. The larger the organization, the more people need to get involved, the longer the requirements gathering process before the technical implementation actually begins. But it does not have to be this way. Most companies do not need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to CRM, and they shouldn't. What they need is guidance, what others are doing, and what gets them to their goal in the easiest way. Because some things or some requirements that people think are hard can turn out to be quite easy, but also vice versa. So things that seem easy can be very hard, and that's where the guidance piece comes in. So to avoid complexity in CRM projects, you need to approach CRM in phases, not trying to go from one extreme to another, like having no automation before and now want to automate everything. Since 2014, I have not seen a single requirement that would not be technically possible to implement when using modern cloud technology. So IT has changed, really. Like in the past, the question usually was to an IT vendor or to a technology vendor, can we build this feature? Are you capable of doing this? Is there a limitation in your platform? The question you should ask yourself today is not can we, the question is should we? Let me explain. Is it worth implementing this feature? What business needs is this addressing? And there are only two categories. One, increase revenue, or two, increase productivity, cutting cost. If it doesn't fit into one of these two buckets, well, why are you doing it? It's not driving any business value here, so you shouldn't be doing it. So by having clarity on what you're trying to achieve, like you remove also a lot of complexity by just saying, oh, can we build this? Can we build this? Because the more functionalities in the CRM, the harder it gets to use the CRM and the lower the user adoption. So let me give you a few examples of implementation or automation that makes sense and one that doesn't make sense. So first one, let's say you come to me and you say, well, we need an integration to our back office system to inventory data. I says, why? Well, because our salespeople make hundreds of calls every single day and they need real-time access to inventory data, what we have in the warehouse, in order to make the sale. Well, that's a valid case. Another valid case, if your salespeople spend 2 hours every single day creating quotes. Let's say you have 10 salespeople, there's 20 hours every single day wasted. Like they could spend that time with existing customers or finding new customers. So these are valid examples where there's a business value behind it. Another example that I hear often where it does not make necessarily sense is I hear like, I have to manually update this thing and I don't want to do it. I said, okay, well, how often does it occur? Well, once a week. How long does it take? Well, 20 minutes really. I said, is that worth exploring this further? If it's an automation that just takes 2 hours to implement, okay. But maybe it's not, and maybe it costs you 10 grand. So it's just out of proportion to do this with an automation then. You can just set a weekly reminder. An example I always give to illustrate this point is if you go on vacation and you want to send your loved ones at home a postcard, you don't send this with an overnight delivery, like with the DHL Express. It just doesn't make any sense. You would send this with normal standard delivery. But most implementation consultants do not ask these questions because well, implementations are complex, can be complex, and they're quite lucrative. So don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of technology and leveraging it to eliminate as many non-value adding tasks from employees as possible. But be aware that the more automation you need, the more you increase the complexity of a CRM project, because you need to be very clear on requirements, because once the automation is in place, it should account for every single use case. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. Get started quickly. Use as much out-of-the-box functionality as possible without using custom coding. And then later you can still automate something. Okay? So remember this. Don't ask if you can build a feature. Ask if you should. By doing that, you will eliminate most of the complexity of any CRM project. All right? Cheers.